Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? Hope you're all well. Now, before we kick off with this training session, if anybody's got any sort of technical challenges or viewing or hearing this session at all, what I highly recommend is to do the kind of usual troubleshooting that we all tend to have to go through, I guess, if technology doesn't work for us first time around. So, if you are tuning in to this session via a laptop or a computer, feel free to just hit the refresh button now on your web browser. Alternatively, if you are tuning in on a mobile device, as more and more of us these days are kind of using our tablets and smartphones these days as our kind of primary devices, feel free, if you are tuning on one of those devices, to come out of the YouTube app and then click back on the link that you received for this training session. Hopefully, everything should be working for you. Also, one thing to note with this session is that live captioning is available throughout the course of this session. So if you did want to toggle that on, if you simply hover over onto this YouTube video, you'll see that there's the letters CC inside of a small box. That is the live captioning icon on YouTube that you can turn on or off throughout the course of this session if you wish to use that feature. And also feel free to grab yourself a pen and paper just so you can jot down notes as we go along. Okay, I hope everyone's geared up for this session. So welcome to this Google Digital Garage webinar session, all about how to find your career goals. My name is Rikesh, and I'm going to be your trainer taking through the course of this session, which is going to last for approximately 60 minutes. So I'll kick off first with just a little bit about me. So I'm a trainer for Google's digital skills program, Google Digital Garage. As well as that, I'm also a digital marketer. So I work with businesses to help them to create and to also grow an online presence in order to attract more customers and clients to them, in order to kind of get that more visibility and hopefully eventually kind of lead to kind of sales or kind of getting more attention and kind of growth for their business in general as well. Now, before I used to work in the world of marketing, I used to work in a completely different industry. And what kind of helped me to kind of, I guess, pivot into a brand new industry, i.e. the marketing world, was kind of some of the framework that we're actually going to be exploring today in this session on Find Your Career Goals. So I really kind of, this particular session is quite sort of close to my heart in that sense. So if you are maybe somebody who's thinking about maybe moving industry, or somebody who's just looking to kind of pivot ever so slightly, but still be in kind of the same confines and kind of within the same industry framework that you're in right now, hopefully we'll be able to kind of scratch beneath the surface and kind of evoke some more questions, and hopefully we can provide ourselves some more answers kind of going forward for clarity as well. So that's just a little bit about me. I'd also like to introduce to you at this stage my colleague and fellow Google Digital Garage trainer, and that is Mohammed. Now, Mohammed is going to be our wonderful chat moderator today. So you might notice here on YouTube that there is a live chat box. That is your space over the course of this next hour to drop in your comments, drop in your questions. As this session is going to be rather interactive, especially with a topic like career goals, I'd love to kind of hear your input, your thoughts, because we all kind of bring to the table our own experiences when it comes to career. In terms of what we've kind of done, whether it be through our academic studies, whether it be through kind of getting a part-time job, whether it be through kind of progressing in our career, maybe getting something like a graduate position, whatever it might be, we all kind of have our own kind of journey and pathways that we've kind of created over time. So feel free to kind of share your thoughts. There will be questions on screen, and I'd love to get your thoughts on those questions. Feel free to pop your answers in the chat, and combination of myself and Mohammed will be able to kind of provide our thoughts to those questions as we go along. So yeah, feel free to kind of get involved. In order to type away into the live chat box, you will simply just need to sign into your YouTube account. Very quick and easy to do. I know we've got Rob who's tuning in from Reading, so welcome to you, Rob. I really hope that you find this webinar session useful. Now, this session on Find Your Career Goals is actually one of many webinars that we actually run as part of a wider Google Digital Garage webinar offering. So if you have a look down below me where I'm pointing, you will see that there is a video description box. Contained within one of those paragraphs inside the video description box is a link to the Google Digital Garage website. And if you click on that and you click on the live training tab on the Google Digital Garage website, which some of you may have already done in terms of signing up for this webinar session, you'll find a list of other upcoming webinars that we are running on a variety of topics. Predominantly, they do revolve around the world of kind of marketing, digital marketing. So kind of helping kind of small to medium enterprises to kind of grow and kind of develop their knowledge. And it might be useful for yourself, but also we do kind of career-based sessions, a little bit like today with Find Your Career Goals, but we also have another session that we run called Build a CV and Write a Cover Letters. Feel free to kind of keep your eyes peeled for the next running session on that topic as well. And for those of you based in the UK, such as the likes of Rob, tuning in from Reading, you can also keep an eye out on that live training tab for any in-person Google Digital Garage events that we are running. They are just like the webinar sessions, they are completely available for you to attend at no charge. So be sure to check out all of those resources on the Google Digital Garage website, including the online courses section of the Google Digital Garage website, where you can actually supplement your learning that you do on these types of Google Digital Garage webinar sessions by completing some of the online courses. There is a course in particular on the website called the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course, which is a course that upon completion, you will actually receive a certificate at no charge from Google, recognizing that you've completed that course as well. So be sure to check all those resources out when you do get a moment. But without further ado, let's look at what we're covering in this session, all about how you can find your career goals. So the way that we're going to be breaking this session down is, first of all, we're just briefly going to be touching upon our purpose. So why do we do what we do? What is the reason for us working? What is the reason for us kind of climbing that, I guess, proverbial career ladder? And it's important to kind of start with that, because that is very much kind of our foundation when it comes to a career, and kind of evaluating our career goals and our pathways that we are that either we're on, or whether we're looking to kind of pivot onto another pathway perhaps as well. What I'm then going to be doing is I'm then going to be revealing to you what we identify to be a good framework when it comes to identifying on a wider scale your career goals, but also if we kind of shrink that down a little bit as well, to finding an ideal type of job for you as well, which will come from kind of knowing your direction in terms of career goals as well. So we'll be going through that framework, and we'll be exploring that even further throughout the remainder of this webinar session. And hopefully by the end of the session, there'll be kind of some sort of payoff in that. We'll kind of have a look at some kind of action steps that you can tangibly take. You can write down some specific action steps. Right, I'm going to be doing X, or I'm going to be doing Y after I finish this webinar session going forward. Now, before we get into the first part of this session, I want to draw your attention to another fantastic resource, which is this, what you can see on screen. You can see the title says Free Career Certificates available from Google. So these are flexible online training programs. So for those of you who are based in the UK, you can check this out. The link is here on screen, goo.go/career search UK. It is case sensitive, that link. But I'm sure that Mohammed will kindly be able to drop a link to that in the chat for you as well. These are flexible online training programs that you can complete in your own time. So it's done via self-study. And there's kind of, I believe there's now kind of about 6 topics that you can choose from. So you've got the likes of data analytics, you've got user experience design, you've got digital marketing and e-commerce, you've got IT support, you've got cybersecurity as well. So you've got all these different kind of topics that are available for you to kind of check out. And you can undertake one of these courses. You can do multiple of these courses, but I definitely recommend kind of completing one course to completion, and then picking another course if you wish to do so. Now, these courses and the course topics that you'll see on the website actually are those which have been identified as both high growth and high demand career sectors by Google. So it's definitely something to check out. You might look at it and you might be like, right, this isn't for me. And that's okay, but it's always important just to kind of look at some of kind of the opportunities that kind of exist online as well. And if you do end up kind of signing up for these online courses, which you can do so at no charge, you will, at the end of it, as the title suggests, you will receive a certificate, a career certificate from Google at no charge as well. And the way that these online training programs are set up is that they are designed to help you to essentially kind of get a baseline knowledge to help you with kind of maybe getting entry-level positions at companies within that specific industry or sector going forward as well. So be sure to check that out if that is of interest to you. So kicking off this webinar session, I want to kind of throw things to you and ask you a question here. So I want you to kind of think back to a time when you felt most fulfilled by a job. a volunteering activity, or a task that you did. Now, as you can see here on screen, it can be any time in the past, so anything you've worked at or worked on in the past, or it could be something that you're doing right now. Now, whilst you're kind of thinking of that, I'd like for you to, first of all, jot that down as well. A time when you felt most fulfilled by this job, volunteering activity, or a task. But also, if you're comfortable to do so, feel free to share this in the live chat. And the reason why you can see that the word fulfilled here is highlighted in blue is because if you think about kind of the definition of fulfillment, the definition of fulfillment, yes, there is I guess, a dictionary.com definition of fulfillment. However, we kind of look at fulfillment in different ways. And a lot of the times, fulfillment comes from our feelings, and they're kind of dictated by our feelings. So if I think for myself, something that kind of feels fulfilling for me would be something that puts a smile on my face, something that's maybe rewarding, kind of gives me that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Like, yeah, do you know what? I've felt like I've kind of contributed to something on a wider scale, perhaps as well. So feel free to kind of share kind of maybe one or more of those experiences in the chat as we go along. I'd love to kind of read some of them out as we progress throughout the course of this session. Now, something that kind of springs to my mind was I remember a number of years ago, I actually delivered a training session all about kind of coding. So how to create websites using, I guess, website programming language. And it was basically taking individuals or attendees who had no real knowledge of coding and how kind of these different languages work and how they can be used in order to create web pages and in totality kind of a website. And it was a whole day training session. So start at 9, finish at 5 o'clock. And something that I found very rewarding at the end of that session was a lot of people came up to me at the end of the training session and said, thank you, really enjoyed it. We've got better kind of knowledge and comprehension of kind of coding as well. But I also had a couple of people reach out a few weeks later after that training session that we ran in person, and they actually reached out and said, oh, thank you very much. I was actually looking to work within this world, within this industry of coding. And off the back of kind of my knowledge, I was able to create kind of a portfolio, create kind of a project, and naturally that was able to help me when it comes to demonstrating my skills. That's helped me to kind of get kind of interviews for certain jobs that I want to apply for as well. So that kind of left me feeling fulfilled. So feel free to just kind of think about this. I appreciate that I'm kind of putting you on the spot with this question, but feel free to kind of provide your thoughts in the chat, myself and Mohammed would be able to kind of have a look at them, and I'd love to kind of read out some of yours as well. Just picking up on Mohammed's actually, who's actually shared his kind of one of his fulfilling feelings. So for me, it was doing charity work on the ground. Yeah, helping refugees, fantastic. That's kind of when you get that kind of that fulfilling feeling that you actually making a difference. And I guess it goes back to something I mentioned a moment or two ago. It's like you feel like you're that kind of that small cog in kind of a larger wheel, kind of helping things progress and move in a positive direction as well. So you might be kind of wondering, why have I kind of kicked off this training session with this question and kind of spotlighting this question first and foremost? Well, the reason for that is because of this statistic that you can see here on screen, which is that 3 out of 10 workers based in the UK do not believe that they have good prospects for career development. Now, that actually makes me quite sad. I kind of want that figure to be 0, ideally, or maybe just 1, if there has to be kind of this sort of statistic. And it's very important for us to feel like we've got prospects to develop within whichever career path that we do take, especially because we tend to spend a large proportion of our lives working, right? I believe it's estimated that we spend a third of our lives working. I believe the other third, one of the other thirds, we spend sleeping in our lives as well. Hence why we probably do spend a lot, kind of a decent amount of money, make sure that we get a decent bed and a good pillow to sleep on as well. And I'm not sure what the other third is. It might be kind of just doing anything, just recreational activities as well. But a third of our lives we spend working. So that third of our lives, we want to make sure that we're getting some level of fulfillment out of that, right? and that we feel that we've got prospects to grow, we've got prospects to develop within our career. So with that in mind, what I want to do is I want to kind of share with you kind of the three main elements that make up a fulfilling career, and on kind of a more granular scale, kind of a fulfilling job as well. And this is going to be the framework which we're going to be working from for the remainder of this webinar session. So first and foremost, which kind of is the first element of a fulfilling role and a fulfilling career, is something that you enjoy doing. So this is something that you find genuine pleasure in doing. And maybe you could kind of rephrase this. I know it's not really, it kind of sounds a bit counterproductive in kind of the career context, but just kind of think of something that you could maybe you enjoy doing, and you find genuine pleasure in doing, and maybe you can think, right, I enjoy doing this. I could do this even if it meant, no money. I wasn't getting any money off the back of it, but I genuinely enjoy doing that. I want you just kind of focus upon that first element of that, and kind of answering that type of question first of all. So that kind of makes up the first element of a fulfilling career. Now, the second element is something that you are good at. So this is something that typically plays to your strengths or your natural strengths as well. And then the third and final element here is something that people value. So this is something that there's a market out there for what it is that you do or you provide, and that someone somewhere out there in the ether, in the space, will be happy to pay you for performing that or doing that work or doing that job specifically as well. So you can see that there's kind of a trifecta here. And in order to actually get that fulfilling career, we need elements of all three of these, because it doesn't really work if we just have one or two of these elements out of the three. So if we had a bit more context here, if it's just something that you enjoy doing, so I enjoy every so often playing video games at the end of a long kind of working day. Sometimes I just enjoy just kind of a bit of a kind of a detox and kind of de-stress, just kind of enjoy playing video games. For me, that's just a bit of fun. I'm not very good at it, and it's not something that I probably get paid for, although I appreciate and I'm fully aware of the massive kind of gaming, streaming kind of space that there is out there on the internet as well. Now, you can also see from a point of view, if it's just something that you're good at, so something that plays to your natural strengths, but you're working somewhere doing something which you don't necessarily enjoy doing, and you're not really getting paid very well, then it could just, or getting paid at all, then it could just be practice chores. So think about kind of doing the dishes, doing laundry, those kind of things. They're like kind of practice chores. You're not getting paid for it, and you're not particularly enjoy doing it, but because you've done it over a period of time, they're kind of practice chores in that essence there as well. And if you're kind of working somewhere where you're getting paid for what you do, but you're not particularly good at it, and you don't particularly enjoy doing it, it could just mean that it's not for you, and that could just mean the role, or it could mean the industry as well. And that's something, obviously, this is for you to evaluate yourself going forward as well. Now, you can see that there's kind of overlaps where you've got 2 out of the 3. So if it's something that you're good at and something that you're getting paid for, but you don't particularly enjoy doing it, it could be an indication that you are doing a job which you find boring. And this is very subjective. This is not something that I say, oh, this is exactly what you can see here on screen with this overlap, and it's not something that is that should be kind of the absolute truth, because obviously this is something that you would have to evaluate, whether it's something that is maybe boring for you, or something that is maybe not broadening your horizons like you wanted it to give you that more of kind of enjoyment out of what you're doing as well. Similarly, if it's something that you enjoy doing, you're getting paid for it, but it's not particularly something that you're good at, it could be an indication that you are doing something which is a bit more kind of low skilled, and it's not really challenging you as well. And similarly, if it's something you're not getting paid at, you're not getting paid for, but you enjoy doing it and you're good at it, it could just mean that you're in that bracket of a skilled hobby. So by that kind of process of denomination, where we essentially want to find our fulfilling role, our fulfilling career, is in this middle section where there's no kind of writing in there. So we've got an overlap of all 3 there. And that is where we want to be, in that sweet spot. And we're going to be kind of dissecting each one of these circles, each one of these elements in turn for the remainder of this for the remainder of this webinar session. Now, this Venn diagram that you can see here on screen, we've actually adapted this off the back of a Japanese practice which is called Ikigai, Ikigai. And Ikigai in Japanese essentially translates to the reason for being, or the purpose of life. So we've actually molded this particular Venn diagram for the purposes of a career goal. But yeah, it's something very important just to kind of note with that with Ikigai, and it's definitely something to check out if you wanted to Google it later on, Ikigai, and kind of find out a little bit more about that kind of process and concept as well. Now, before we actually deep dive into each one of these circles in turn, I want to ask you a question, and it's another question that I'm kind of putting you on the spot for here. Is what is the top motivator for people working? Or what is your top motivator, rather? So don't just kind of think generally and think, oh, what is the top motivator for generally people working? Why do we work? Now, I know what you're going to say, and it's probably the obvious answer. And if I saw this question for the very first time, I would probably answer the very same. So what is my top motivator for working? Well, you'd be like, surely, Rakesh, it's money. It's to earn money. So let's kind of make this question a little bit more challenging here. So let me take kind of money off the table for a moment. So let's say in a hypothetical world that we have enough money for food, for water, for shelter, kind of the basic, I guess, necessities, basic amenities that we need. Once we have that in place, once we've got enough money that we've got for kind of sustenance, I guess, what is then the top motivating factor for us working, for us to get out of bed, whether it be take public transport and commute to work, whether it be driving to work, or whatever it might be, whether it be kind of work from home as has become more of the norm these days, or kind of more hybrid working in general. What is the top motivator for us working? And I want you to just kind of think about that as we go along throughout the course of this session. And what you'll tend to find is when we get some answers in the chat a little bit later on, is you'll find that people got different motivators, motivating factors for working. Some people might be, right, I really enjoy helping others. I really enjoy kind of making an impact. As we spoke about earlier on with kind of both mine and Mohammed's examples of you feel kind of you are part of something greater that you are grateful to have contributed to and to be continually contributing to as well. So that's something to kind of consider and think about there in that respect as well, in terms of motivating factor for working. Why do we do what we do, essentially, when we take money off the table there? Now, if I reveal to you kind of, I guess, the most common answer, and this answer is not kind of something which is true for everybody. As I mentioned, this is a very subjective kind of answer that you can give, and there is no right answer, because what answer you give is right for you, what answer I give is right for me, what answer is right for Mohammed, it's right for Mohammed. Now, this answer that you'll see here on screen is very much just based upon a small survey that was carried out with some research findings, and what they found was that the top motivating factor for people working is recognition of work. Now, some of you might nod and agree, because I kind of realized this, like, oh, okay, yeah, this probably is a motivating factor for me working as well, getting that recognition, kind of getting that pat on the back. I think that's something that we do tend to it really kind of fires us up at times, and we think, oh yeah, do you know what, thank you very much for that, appreciate the confidence within that as well. But as I say, this is different for everyone. Just seen an answer here from Rob in the chat, who said, for me, it would be working with other people. Absolutely, yeah, it's that a motivating factor for working is collaboration at times. And I'm sure kind of if the last few years has kind of taught us anything, it's that A lot of the times we kind of enjoy that human interaction, that human element. Like, as much as webcams are good, and it's great to be on video calls at times, and it's very convenient, but sometimes you just need to be kind of in person with somebody and have a face-to-face dialogue. I think that's something which I think people are kind of appreciating more, I guess, these days as well. So thank you very much for that. And this is something which you can always reflect upon every kind of 6 months, or check in with yourself. What is my top motivating factor for working as well? Kind of think about that every 3 months or so if you wish to do so as well. So with that in mind, let's have a quick check-in with questions, which I can't see any questions at this stage. If there are any questions throughout the course of this session, remember, feel free to pop them in the chat, and Mohammed and myself will be able to pick up on some of those questions as we go along. So let's kick off by kind of deconstructing, I guess, the first element of kind of finding a fulfilling career for us, which is that blue circle of something that you enjoy doing, so something that you find genuine pleasure in doing. So with that in mind, if you want to grab yourself a pen and paper, if you haven't already done so, because what I want to do is I want us to go through an exercise here. So with your pen and paper, or if you are probably a little bit too digitally minded like me and don't really use pen and paper that often, feel free to use whichever note-taking device that you are using. I want you to draw a line straight down the middle of your page, so that you've got two columns. You've got a left column and right column. So I want us to focus first and foremost on the left-hand side column. And as you can see here with number 1, it says pick out the words or phrases that describe things that you enjoy. So what I'm about to show you in just a moment are 8 phrases which typically represent things that we enjoy about doing at work. And I want you to pick a minimum of 3. At least you can pick more than 3. You can write down all 8 as well in the left-hand side column. But I want you to jot down a minimum of 3. So these are the 8 phrases. So secure and stable work, having ideas, helping others, working independently, work-life balance, being an expert, organizing people, and solving problems. So these are 8 phrases. And these are kind of 8 phrases which haven't kind of been plucked out of thin air or anything. These are actually 8 phrases which are typically kind of based upon the work of a Professor Edgar Schein, who's actually been working on these kind of phrases since the 1970s, and kind of condensing and compiling the reasons or kind of the main reasons why we tend to work. What are kind of some of the elements in terms of that make up what it is why we do tend to work. And that kind of feeds back to that question that we looked at a moment or so ago of what is the top motivating factor for us working. Now, what we'll find is whatever we have as an answer will usually fall into one of these 8 categories. So I want you to jot down at least 3 here. So if I kind of go through this with you, even for myself, so secure and stable work, that's something that I enjoy about work. Having ideas, that's probably not for me. That's probably something I wouldn't really pick. I don't think I'm an ideas person that much, or I don't think I enjoy that aspect as much. Helping others is something that I enjoy. Working independently is something I enjoy. Having a work-life balance is very important for me as well, something I enjoy. Being an expert, I could probably say that, yes, as well. Organizing people, probably not really for me. It's not something that I enjoy doing per se. And so problem solving, I guess that would be something that I enjoy as well. So probably just out of those 8, probably 2 of them that I probably wouldn't jot down in terms of things that I enjoy. But I do have a solid list of 8. I do have a solid list of 6 out of 8 for me here as well. So I hope you've got at least 3 down, because what I now want you to do is refine that list. I want you to create a top 3 ranking of things that you enjoy about working. So I'm going to show you these 8 phrases once again that are here on screen. And I want you just to put a little 1, a 2, and a 3 beside your top 3, with number 1 being the thing that you enjoy doing about work the most. So for me, if I was to rank my top 3, if I go from kind of 3 to 1, I guess keep a little bit of suspense. My number 3 would probably be working independently. Number 2 for me would be a work-life balance. And number 1, the thing that I enjoy above anything else about working is probably helping others out of this list. I think that's kind of that is kind of my list of 1 to 3. And feel free to share in the chat what your 1 to 3 list is, because this is going to be different for everyone, right? And I always love it on these webinar sessions when everybody has different kind of 1 to 3 lists. So feel free to kind of share in the chat what your kind of 1 to 3 list is as well. So just see Mohammed's 1 to 3 list here. So number 3, supporting family. Number 2, teaching a new skill. Number 1, helping my students. Yeah, helping others as well. So it looks like me and Mohammed have got the same kind of number 1 there, helping others as well. So I think that's really important, just to have that identification. So whatever your combination of kind of 1 to 3 here is, it's important just to kind of keep that and have that jotted down. I think it's very important to have that noted down, because this we can use as our kind of our kind of compass point. We know that whatever we apply for jobs wise, whatever we decide to set up, if we are going to be going down maybe an entrepreneurial route, whatever we are doing career wise, we want to make sure that we are having this at the heart of it, more importantly as well. So we've looked at the left hand side of the column here. Now, on the right hand side of your your page on the column, what I now want you to do is I want you to look at the same list of 8 phrases, which I'm going to show you in just a moment once again as well. But what I want you to do now is I want you to actually pick out the phrases that you have done in a previous role, or you are doing right now, or you've been exposed to in the past. So these are not necessarily things out of that list of 8 that you enjoy about working. These are just things that you have done. So for me, I'd probably say out of all 8 of these, I've probably experienced all 8 of these in my kind of my career that I've had so far. If that's the same for you, feel free to jot down all 8 of these as well. And remember, this isn't a list of things that you enjoy, because we've already covered that off in the left-hand side column. This is things that you are doing, or have done in the past. So have you had secure and stable work? Have you been the go-to person for having ideas in some shape or capacity? Have you helped others? Are you working independently? Or have you worked independently in the past, for instance, as well? So I want you to jot down as many of these that you feel are kind of answer that question of what you've done previously or what you do now, because hopefully now you should have a left-hand side column with a list and a right-hand side column with a list. Now, the length of both lists might vary, but what I want you to do, just to kind of bring this whole exercise together, is to evaluate both lists. If you find that the things that you enjoy about working, i.e. in the left-hand side column, if a lot of those things are not necessarily written in the right-hand side column of things that you do now or have done previously, then that is maybe food for thought for you to think, how can I incorporate more of the things that I enjoy about working into either my current role, or is there kind of a pathway within the industry that I work in right now, provided that you enjoy that industry, that you can look to kind of work in a role which would open you up for more of the things that you enjoy about working as well. And it might be that at the end of this exercise, you might think, maybe I do want to pivot into a new industry. And it might kind of might allow you to think, when I'm looking at kind of vacancies and job roles online, maybe I want to look out for these elements, the things that I enjoy more when I'm looking at the job descriptions as well. So that's kind of identifying kind of that first element here of in kind of finding a fulfilling career, which is something that you enjoy doing. So with that in mind, let's have a check-in, see if there's any comments or any questions, which I can't see at this stage. So thank you very much, by the way, for contributing and kind of going through these exercises. I really feel that they are beneficial. Even for me, when I kind of run these training sessions, it's nice to kind of evaluate and kind of take stock for me, even though I'm kind of delivering kind of the training session. It's important for me just to evaluate and take stock myself of what am I doing, and the things that I enjoy about working, am I incorporating more of them into my kind of my day-to-day work as well. If there are any questions, pop them in the live chat as we go along, because we are going to now move on to the second element of finding a fulfilling career, which is something that you are good at. So if I ask you a question right now, what are you good at? What is your, I guess, default thinking? It's like, Rakesh just asked me, what am I good at? We kind of go into our own minds, don't we? We kind of go into our own minds and think, so Rakesh, what are you good at that you can tell people? And that is our first port of call. So I want you to keep that in mind. The fact that we go internally in order to try and answer this question of what am I good at? What are my strengths? So keep that in mind, because what I want to introduce you to is something known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is actually something which is named after two social psychologists. You got David Dunning, you got Justin Kruger, and they ran a set of kind of various experiments. And what they found, hence it's now called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect essentially describes how us as humans are notoriously awful at knowing what we're good at and what we're not good at, i.e., our strengths and weaknesses. So that kind of flies very much in the face of our initial thinking, which is that, oh, if somebody asks me what my strengths are, right, let me ask myself. Well, the Dunning-Kruger effect says, well, we can't really trust ourselves. So let's actually play out the Dunning-Kruger effect, because what the Dunning-Kruger effect essentially looked at and explored was it explored our own kind of individual perceptions of our strengths. So how we thought, how we thought, or what we thought of our strengths compared to our actual ability set. So let's use kind of an example skill of singing, as you can see with the photo here on screen. And we've also got a graph here that you can see here on screen. And with the graph, you've got kind of on the vertical axis, you've got confidence levels. So how confident do we feel in singing? And then you've got competence levels on the horizontal axis. So you've got non-average expert. So how good you actually are. So your actual ability level there as well. Now, if we follow this kind of red dot here, the red dot at the moment represents a big fat 0. And let's just say, hypothetically, that we've never sang before. We've never picked up a microphone. We've never been to a karaoke venue. But let's say, hypothetically, all of us here on this webinar session are all work within the same company, same organization. And one afternoon, as kind of a treat, as a staff treat, we all go to a karaoke restaurant, for example. So there's a restaurant, but then they also have some karaoke rooms as well. Okay. So keeping that in mind, let's go to the karaoke room, and we actually, for the very first time, get on the microphone and we actually sing. Now, where do you see this red dot? It's actually skyrocketed. So our confidence levels have actually shot through the roof pretty much, and it's gone very, very high here. So our confidence levels are very high because we've actually picked up the microphone. We sang for the very first time at this staff event that we've had going on. Now, the one thing you will notice on this graph is that the competence levels, our actual ability at singing and singing well, has only moved along a little bit. Now, how does that kind of work with our confidence levels being sky high? Well, what the Dunning-Kruger effect at this kind of junction, this stage, essentially explains is that when we do something a lot of the times for the very first time, we actually have a sense of false confidence. So it's kind of a bit like kind of pushing past the fear barrier of anything, and we do it for the very first time. So singing, we do it for the very first time. Our confidence levels are sky high, and you think you're amazing. So in the UK, we just the weekend just gone, we just had Glastonbury Festival. So you might just think, oh, I've got on the microphone, I've sang for the very first time. And you think, wow, amazing! I actually sing really well. Maybe I should be headlining Glastonbury myself next year. All of these kind of thoughts come into mind, but this is where the Dunning-Kruger effect says that we tend to overestimate our abilities. So if you kind of think back to a time when you first learned how to do something, I know when I was, I think about 16 years old, 15, 16 years old, I was trying to sort of learn how to play the electric guitar. Kind of went through a little bit of a phase trying to learn how to do that. And then when I learned how to do, I think, was it one chord change or something like that, or learned how to play a little bit of the intro of a favorite song, I thought I was amazing. I thought, wow, sign me up to a band. I'm incredible. But that's all false confidence. If you learn how to do a simple sum on a spreadsheet, you might think, wow, I'm amazing. I should be able to do all these other formulas, etc. as well. And this all kind of comes from a place of us not necessarily knowing our ability level, but our confidence levels are kind of giving us that kind of that fallacy of actually thinking we are better than what we say we are at this juncture. So let's now move things along with this example here. So let's say we've done our first time singing and we actually enjoyed it as well. So with that in mind, let's say we've actually been to this karaoke restaurant a few more times, with and without work, because we really enjoy it. And as well as going to this karaoke restaurant, we've also been taking singing lessons. So we actually want to get more proficient at this skill. And we are now at the point where we can actually sing in tune without breaking any glass windows. So you can see that the competence level has actually moved along with our red dot here moving along. So we're actually at average competence with singing. However, what you do notice here is that our confidence level has actually gone down. Now, naturally, you'd think that with our confidence levels, it'd actually kind of have a very steep upward curve. So as our kind of our proficiency with singing increases, our competency increases, that our confidence levels kind of matches that and goes higher and higher and higher. But it actually drops. Now, what the Dunning-Kruger effect at this point kind of explains is we tend to, when we get to this kind of point in time when we're learning something new, we tend to underestimate our abilities. And this doesn't come from a false modesty where people say, oh, Rikesh, you're amazing at singing. Yes, you should be headlining Glastonbury. And I'm saying, no, I'm not that good. Yeah, I'm not that good yet. But really inside, I'm thinking, wow, I am really amazing. I need to get myself an agent. I need to start booking some gigs as well. It doesn't come from a false modesty place. What it comes from is this comes from a place where when we become proficient and we become kind of like an average competence level at a particular skill, we're actually looking more forward at where we want to get to, i.e. the expert level, rather than looking back at our achievement about where we came from that very first time that we all went to that karaoke restaurant and actually sang and actually picked up the microphone for the very first time. We're actually looking more forward. So we actually know the path and the journey that we've still yet to come. And that's where our kind of, I guess, more modesty comes from, and kind of where we tend to underestimate our abilities as well. And Dunning-Kruger effect essentially shows and explains how it's only when we get to the expert level do we have an accurate kind of picture of what our confidence levels are like compared to our competence levels here as well. And what you can see with the red dot, yes, the red dot has increased, but that red dot is still not as high as it was where you can see that little spike when we first sang. So you can definitely see that was very much false confidence, because even at expert levels, we don't have that level of confidence. But our level of confidence that we have now being an expert at singing is much more accurate, that we can kind of base our strengths off of as well. So this Dunning-Kruger effect, and we've kind of walked through this with the example skill of singing. What this essentially explains is that really, in order to understand what our strengths are, we actually need to look outside of ourselves. So with that in mind, we've got another exercise here. So just on a pen and paper, what I want you to do is I want you to jot down the names of 3 people who know you well. Now, it's not 3 people who you know well, it's 3 people that know you well. So it's kind of worded very specifically here. So this could be, I mean, a natural port of call is usually kind of family, but I don't want you to pick family member or family members who are going to be very much just on your side with everything. You want someone who can have some level of kind of objectivity. So it can't just be kind of a spouse or a parent who just says, no, you're amazing at everything, and not really kind of giving you anything constructive. So in terms of people that you could pick, this could be a family friend, or it could even be kind of a current or a former colleague who's known you for a significant period of time. And obviously you will be the best judge of these 3 people. Now, with these 3 people that you've jotted down, what I want you to also jot down is these 3 sentence starters that you can see here on screen. And where you can see the X's in these sentence starters, I want you to replace that with your own name. So it can be, I always ask Rob for help with. Rob knows a lot about. You can always ask Rob too. And your job is not to fill in the rest of this sentence and to answer this sentence, because these 3 sentence starters are what you are going to be giving to those 3 people that know you well. So if I just move this on a little moment, and you can still see the three kind of speech bubbles there on screen if you wanted to carry on jotting these down. But you can see kind of underneath that we've got kind of a pool of example kind of replies that those three people might provide, and this is great, very different for everybody. And these are just examples. They can say people provide answers in very different ways, different terminology as well. But what you will tend to find when you ask those three people who know you well, these three sentence starters, and they provide you the responses, whether it be you meet them for a coffee or something afterwards, like give them a week, give them a bit of breathing room to actually think about this themselves, and then catch up with them a week later, or whether it be meeting up with them via video call and kind of debriefing with them about what was their answers. What you tend to find when you get all these three answers kind of collated together, you'll tend to find that with at least one or two of these sentence starters, if not all three of them, you'll start to find a commonality. You start to find a trend where more than one person is answering these sentence starters with the same sort of thing in terms of what you are actually good at, in terms of your strengths. And through that, you'll find that with these similar answers, you'll find that there's a trend. So, if someone says you can always I always ask Rob for help with having deep conversations or staying focused or having new ideas. If a lot of people are saying about you, Rob, that you are somebody who is always having ideas, that is something that you can think, oh, that's one of my strengths. Because remember, we're getting these answers from outside of ourselves. And as the Dunning-Kruger effect has shown, that's much better than actually getting answers from our own selves as well. So it's a really important exercise. And those three people who know you well might think, that's a bit weird. Why are they asking me to answer these three sentence starters? If anyone asks, and if you want to kind of feel maybe a little bit less awkward about it, feel free to say, look, I jumped onto a Google Digital Garage webinar session, and the trainer on screen, Rikesh, said for me to go through this exercise, so that's what I'm doing. So feel free to kind of put it all on me if you wish to as well. But it's a really, really powerful exercise to kind of identify that second element, which is something that you are good at, i.e. your strength, something that plays to your natural strengths as well. So with that in mind, let's see if there's any sort of comments or questions at the moment. So I can't see any comments or questions at this stage. If there are any comments or questions, pop them into the chat. And as I mentioned previously, either myself or Mohammed will be able to provide our thoughts on some of the comments or questions, or even answers some of the questions that we had earlier on. If you wish to kind of provide your thoughts, feel free to pop them into the live chat as we go along. And as we move on to the final element, which is something that people value. So this is, remember, this is something that there's a market for out there for you. And with there being a market out there, someone somewhere will be willing to pay you for whatever this might be that you kind of possess and you provide as well. So before we have a look at some kind of exploratory kind of questions with this final element here, because remember, if we don't have this final element and it's just something that we enjoy doing and something that we're good at, it just stays in the skilled hobby kind of category. So we need this final element to kind of make it a fulfilling career for us as well. So I want to just kind of kick off this kind of this segment or this kind of element with a few kind of case kind of stories of people who've kind of gone through this process in some shape or form when it comes to their own kind of career journey. So we've got Abigail's story here on screen. So you can see that Abby works in technology at a large entertainment business, but changed her career to focus on baking cakes. Abby's pantry started off in London and then has now moved and progressed to Edinburgh. So with Abby's kind of journey here, something that Abby enjoyed doing and enjoys doing, should I say, is baking cakes. So that is that first element, something that you enjoy doing. The second element, that second circle, is something that you're good at. So the reason how Abby knew that she was good at baking cakes was because when she was baking cakes at home, as well as getting feedback from her nearest and dearest that she would make cakes for, she was also getting feedback when she'd bring the cakes into work as well. So she was getting feedback, external feedback from people who knew her well, but people who are not just going to say, wow, this cake's incredible, even when it was a bit dry, for example. So she was getting that kind of that feedback loop going on from people who knew her well to say, yes, you're incredible as well. So at that point, it was a skilled hobby. And for her, that kind of final element here of actually setting up Abby's Pantry, starting off in London, has now moved to Edinburgh, as you can see here. That is kind of more of she realized that there's a market for her to sell her baked creations out there, and that's what she did. She decided to set up kind of from an entrepreneurial kind of route, and that is kind of Abby's kind of that's kind of Abby's I guess journey through this kind of framework that we've been covering throughout the course of this session. Now, I'll show you kind of another story here. We've got Claire and Rachel's story here as well. So Claire and Rachel, both friends, as you can see here. Now, both of them worked in totally different industries to that which they essentially have ended up in, which is the kind of the wedding industry. Now, Claire and Rachel both totally different industries that didn't even correlate or kind of cross paths with the wedding industry. But what they did, as you can see here, they joined forces, set up a website called How Do I Do, which is a directory of wedding suppliers and wedding planners as well. And with this story of Claire and Rachel, if we kind of dissect it, something that they enjoyed doing was they enjoyed recommending, certain DJs or certain wedding caterers or certain wedding venues. They enjoyed recommending that to their kind of nearest and dearest, their friends and family, whoever they came in contact with. They knew that they were good with these recommendations that they were giving out because of the feedback that they were getting back. So people were saying, well, thank you very much. The food is absolutely brilliant with that caterer that you recommended to me as well. And then they realized, right, there's a market out there for us to provide our recommendations to more of the masses, so other people can actually use these kind of recommended kind of suppliers and wedding planners for planning their own special day going forward as well. So that's them kind of using that journey as well from kind of an entrepreneurial route. And then finally, you've got Shaquille's story here, which is kind of probably less so from an entrepreneurial route, but it's kind of very much still a route which is very useful whether you're looking to either set up something of your own or work within an industry that you're already a part of, perhaps as well. So with Shaquille, you can see Shaquille took what he was good at, which is HR, and enjoyed working, which is working independently, became a HR consultant. So with Shaquille, as you can see here, something that he enjoyed most about working was working independently. And that is actually specifically one of those 8 phrases that we looked at in the first exercise that we did in this webinar session. Now, the second element was something that he is good at, or something that plays to his natural strengths, which is HR, i.e. human resources. And the reason why he knows that, or he knew that HR was his kind of strength, was because of the feedback that he was getting from previous people that he had worked with, and also getting feedback from colleagues and organizations that he'd worked for before as well. And when Shaquille kind of came to kind of using this framework, he actually came to using this framework from a place of being made redundant at his current place. So it was definitely kind of the right time for him to go through this framework to help him to kind of get that more clarity with his career goal going forward, and for him to incorporate more of the things that he enjoyed doing about working, especially his number one pick, which was working independently. And you can see off the back of him identifying that he enjoyed working independently the most out of anything, and knew that he was his strength lied in human resources, he became a HR consultant. There was an opportunity that arose for that particular role, an opportunity which allowed him to work independently, but also have that kind of maybe more secure and stable work, working within the confines of kind of an umbrella organization, and also working within human resources as well, which is something that he was good at as well. And you can see through kind of becoming a HR consultant, he's thrived and kind of set up a hashtag on LinkedIn, and has grown his kind of connection based, which has undoubtedly kind of helped him to kind of find new clients going forward as well. And it's always nice for me to kind of share these types of stories on webinars like this, because sometimes when we look at kind of the theory, it can just seem like, oh, it's just theory. But when you look at this theory put into action, put into practice, that's where you can really see kind of these 3 elements kind of come to life as well. So with this final element of something that people value, three important questions that we want to kind of answer in this kind of final circle, this final element here of finding a fulfilling career for us, is which job or profession requires what you've got. So that could be something like a skill set or skill base. Which business or businesses could use your skill? So this is something. So with kind of the first question, which job or professions require what you've got? You can create, and this will obviously require a lot of kind of maybe research and googling online to find out some of the job titles that exist online that you feel that you can actually do, given the other two elements that we've covered earlier on as well, something that you enjoy doing, something that you're good at as well. So list down a long list of different job titles. And similarly, which businesses, write down loads of different organizations, whether that be a large organization with maybe thousands of employees, or whether it be on the other end of the scale, a small startup organization that you found online as well. So just kind of create, again, a long list. And then third and final question here that you see is all about the value. So which of those kind of businesses, which kind of follows on from that second question, will be able to pay you to do what you can do and for you to provide your value there as well. So you kind of refining maybe some of those businesses as well. So that is also where you can evaluate whether you want to work for a big organization or maybe a small organization. So you can evaluate whether you want to be a small fish in a big pond, or whether you want to be a big fish but in a smaller pond, or maybe you want to be kind of somewhere in the middle there as well. Now, in terms of kind of looking for jobs, once you've kind of got that identification, kind of got all these three elements in place, obviously it's important to create cover letters, create CVs, and we do a session on that. Remember to check out the link in the video description box below for the Google Digital Garage website. Check out when the next session on build a CV and write a cover letter webinar session is running as well. But in terms of searching for roles, the best place nowadays and the most convenient place for most of us is the internet. And a lot of the times, as with most things in life nowadays, we can just Google it, right? So you can see with the screenshot here, this is the Google Jobs board, where you can sift through various vacancies, and you can obviously filter them by different variables like title, location, the date posted as well. Another place to actually search for jobs, and also another place to put yourself into the shop window is on LinkedIn. So for me, I can't recommend LinkedIn enough, because the previous industry that I used to work in before I worked in marketing, I actually got headhunted off LinkedIn just by simply completing my personal profile, writing in where I'd studied, what grades I got, which previous job roles I've had, and my ambition for working in that particular industry at the time as well. And to get headhunted was a real kind of high for me, and that's something that that kind of stood me in good stead when it came to just putting yourself in the shop window, because LinkedIn also has a lot of recruiters on there as well who are looking to kind of fill certain roles, and maybe they just might stumble across yours, stumble across your kind of profile as well. If you're looking to maybe bridge the gap between, right, I've got a lot of knowledge but don't have a lot of experience, but how do I get experience without being given the opportunity? A good way to kind of bridge that gap is volunteering. Now, one thing volunteering to always note is a lot of the times it can be unpaid. So obviously this is going to be dependent upon your own circumstances. But if you did want to look at kind of volunteering kind of opportunities, you've got websites like Do It and Charity Jobs, which you can have a look at opportunities based in the UK as well. So now, in terms of kind of the payoff for this webinar session, I want you to kind of jot down these 4 sentence starters here on screen, and I want you to fill these out yourself. So today I'm going to check out the Google Digital Garage website, sign up for the Build a CV and Write a Cover Letter session. Next week, I'm going to send those 3 sentence starters to those 3 people that know me well with the exercise that we looked at earlier. This month, I will have received responses back from those 3 people and evaluated what my strengths are. And this year, I will have identified, or this year I will actually have a job within the industry that I want to work in, and actually be working in a role that actually I enjoy doing and has a lot of the elements that I enjoy doing, and that plays to my natural strengths, and obviously I'm getting paid for it as well. So feel free to kind of fill in the blanks accordingly for yourself as well. So I can't see any final questions in the chat, so if we roll into our next steps, next step wise, something that I mentioned at the very beginning of this webinar session, free career certificates available from Google. So definitely check out the Google Career Certificates website if you're based in the UK. You can see some of the topics here: IT support, project management, data analytics, UX design. You've also got cybersecurity. You've also got digital marketing, e-commerce as well. So you've got those 6 topics to kind of choose from as well. So I hope that you found this session useful. If you did, both myself and Mohammed would appreciate a little bit of feedback. We've got a feedback link here on screen. Feel free to kind of let us know what you enjoyed about this session. Also, be sure to check out the Google Digital Garage website. Remember, the link's in the video description box below if you haven't yet seen it. Sign up for more fantastic Google Digital Garage webinars and continue your learning with some of the online courses. Remember, it's the Fundamental of Digital Marketing course, which is the course that upon completion, you will actually receive a certificate from Google at no charge as well. So apart from that, I want to say a massive thank you to Mohammed. So feel free to show your appreciation to Mohammed in the live chat. And thank you all for tuning into this Google Digital Garage webinar session. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you. Bye.